Hey everybody, welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from Clash Miami. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by SFuels, HOKA, Master Spas, deboer, wetsuits, Premium Plus Sports, and of course our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, Tamara Jewett, coming off and really an awesome season. Actually started off the season last year with a huge win, Oceanside 70.3, running down Chelsea Sodaro at the end. That was very cool. How you doing, Tamara?
I'm good. Yeah.
Always such a treat to get to chat with you. When you look at your races from last year, Oceanside stick out as one of your favorites?
Yeah. I mean, it was sort of the highlight of my season, which is too bad because it was the first race. It's like a bit of a mixed blessing, I guess. But yeah, a lot of really interesting travel last year, and just like quite a mix of experiences.
Yes.
It was a very like rich season for me, I guess, in terms of experiences.
And coming from the running background that you come from, what led to moving to triathlon?
Injuries.
Which is like Chelsea and everybody
very
else.
common story. Yeah.
Stress fractures?
It was really a mix of different, all repetitive strain injuries,
Yes.
but quite a mix of different injuries for me. So the final straw was a really bad plantar fascia tear.
Yes.
I had had plantar fascia tears before. I had some very bad femur, like stress fractures in my femur, including one in the neck of my femur.
Oh my God.
And a bulged disc. So there was like a whole bunch of
God.
things.
And then did that start in high school, or was that in college or professional?
Started really the first year of university.
Okay.
I think at the end of the first year of university is the first plantar fascia tear that I had, and that was really the start of a whole chain of problems.
Yeah, and it's funny when that one thing happens, then it becomes all of a sudden it starts rolling downhill. You get one injury leads to another injury. At that point, were they suggesting, hey, get on a bike, swim a little bit, or was it just a lot of times running coaches know running and they don't really believe in the cross training side of life?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was really mixed messages, and I think if I had it to do over, I was getting some advice from doctors or different therapists that we were working with that doing more cross training mixed into my regular training, rather than what I was doing was I would do a lot of stationary bike or pool running, basically. Right. So sort of cross training for a very concentrated period of time while I was injured, and then I would try to get just 100% back into running. And we were getting some advice that maybe just making like swim or some biking part of my regular training routine, the way that we just built it normally, not as injured, would be good for me. And I think my coaches partly wanted to buy into that, but part of the messaging that I got around it was, well, maybe this will work for you. It's too bad. Like, imagine if you could just run, you would be, what a good runner
so much better.
Yeah. And so I think especially when you're a younger athlete and you haven't had a whole bunch of experiences to play around with finding what works for you, that message just made me feel like, okay, I need to at all costs find a way to be able to just run, because I want to be the best runner I can be. And I think now I see more nuance about I think I could have been the best runner. I could be doing more cross training so that my body would have held up to a more regular training routine. It's
funny. I just don't, it never has made sense to me why coaches wouldn't put a stationary bike on the track, right? And in between intervals, having people on the bike, or say, even if it's running in a pool, but it's running in a pool is replacing a running workout of some sort, because it's part of what you're doing, rather than, okay, you can't run, you'll do this stuff, and as soon as you're back running, that stuff goes away. It just seems it's counterproductive to me.
People can get a little bit stuck in the way that they were brought up in sports, and I hope some of that thinking is changing. Like, I don't know if it's just that I'm in a multi-sport bubble right now, but I definitely hear a lot of people advocating for approaches like that. And then I do see coaches, like my run coach, Ethan, coaches high school track as well, and he's very open-minded about things like that, and we'll mix them in.
Yeah, so that was, so you made the move in 2017. That led to, in making that move, did you go pro right away as a triathlete, or you were racing as age grouper first?
I had a season in 2018 that was an age group season, and then I went pro in 2019. And it was just a bit of a slow start because I broke my collarbone a month before what was supposed
bike
to be
crash?
my first. Yeah.
And your running coaches are going, see, told ya. That's what happens when you ride a bike.
Well, at that point, I was with Suzanne, and her approach is always more like, "You'll learn so much from this experience. It's great." So,
You're
so
like,
she helped me through
really?
that one.
I'm wearing a sling. What am I learning from that? That
Yeah.
I can't wear shirts unless they're buttoned out. That's not cool. But then 2019 Canadian Pro Championships. Oh, that was 2020 Canadian Pro Championships.
Yeah.
You win that, and so then it sounds like then you're all in on triathlon.
Yeah, I think that was a gradual shift, partly
Yeah.
through the pandemic.
Right.
There was just a lot more interaction with other Canadian pros in that year because we were sort of doing local races like that Pro Championship at
Yep.
home. It delayed, I guess, my original plan. I was going to do 2020 Worlds, and then that would be a cool experience, and then I would be back 100% in my law job. And because 2020 Worlds was delayed, I was then looking at balancing my law job and staying pro for longer than I had meant to. And I ended up continuing longer than I had originally planned, and it just led to a shifting arrangement with my law firm, and then eventually being able to go full time.
And when did you go full time?
It would have been not the end of this past year, but the year before
2022,
that, I guess. End of 2022.
Yeah, because in 2021 you're second in Indian Wells, second in Augusta with that 113, which was of course a record for a 70.3 at the time, right? And then win at Timberman. So you're having great performances while you're still a lawyer.
Yeah. It was it was a lot to balance.
That's a lot to balance, right?
But
and then 2022 you're full time pro.
Yeah, end of 2022.
End of 2022. So you win Mount Tremblant, and then Indian Wells, you get second to Paula by like 46 seconds, and ninth in the Worlds. So things are coming along. What has been the toughest adaptation for you going from the running to triathlon? Is it learning the bike? Is it the swimming? Did you have a swim background growing up?
I didn't have much of a swim background. I've always been very comfortable in the water. I spent a lot of time playing in the water when I was little, and I think that really helps.
A ton.
I did like grade 5, 6 swim team very casually with my school because it was one of the few sports teams you could be on. But it was really during the pandemic that I met my current swim coach, and he's put a lot of work in with me since 2020 to try to get my swim up to scratch. And that's been very challenging, but I think very interesting as well. And I'm so lucky to have his support with that. He's very positive about it. And so it's been a really engaging project for the two of us.
Well, and when you win a race like Oceanside, and coming from a running background, you didn't have an extensive cycling background. And that's a tough bike course. Oceanside is a lot of climbing and a lot of descending and wind. It has everything, right? It's one of those courses. And from a swim perspective, is the same. Now, this last year they didn't do the ocean.
Yeah, I didn't
it was
have
just
to
the bay.
do
That's
that
right.
Crazy waves entry. So we were practicing it the day before, but we just had a harbor swim last year.
Yes, that's right. It was a harbor swim. But actually, I love that. When they start in the ocean, you go out through the waves, and then you go swim into the harbor. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's nice to have sort of a different swim course. A lot of them are just sort of big rectangles, so I think it is cool that the regular course there has something else.
You'll be back at Oceanside this year.
Yeah, so maybe I'll get to experience it this year.
I love that. You'll be back at Oceanside. That's very cool. And so then you'll do the T100 for as many of these as you can, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I know for sure I'm not going to do Singapore, so it was just too much travel.
That's a ton of travel. A lot of people got sick last year too.
Yeah. I would love to visit Singapore. I think it could be so interesting to race there, but it's just a lot of travel, especially with 70.3 Worlds being in New Zealand, to go sort of right across the world twice in the same year. And the timing with Oceanside's a little bit awkward, so we felt it made sense to prioritize that. So far, I am planning to do the rest of the T100 races, just with a slight question mark about Dubai, because that's also a lot of time away from home before 70.3 Worlds, because there's Dubai, and then about 10 days later, their Middle Eastern final, and then it's flying straight to New Zealand. So I'm open-minded still about keeping that in. I'm toying with what the best thing to do is.
But I mean, if you're going to come into the sport, you picked a good time to come in, right? There's more between T100 and what PTO is doing, between 70.3 and Challenge and Super League doesn't really affect you. But for a pro perspective, there's more opportunities probably than we've ever had.
Yeah, and I just feel so grateful to have the contract for the tour that I have this year. It's really, I think, I can think of a whole bunch of athletes that I always compete with, like at Worlds and stuff, who are like very close and could be here with me. And it just feels like some kind of amazing, lucky timing that I managed to get in this year. And I hope I can make the most of that.
Well, it's performance-based. They're not signing you just because. They're signing you because you won Oceanside, you won Michigan.
Yeah, no, of course. But just to have key performances come together on the right timeline is... yeah, I'm very grateful that that's happened that way.
And coming from sort of an elite running background, to be able to go to the line with top 20 women in the world 6, 7, 8 times, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very, very. And I hope will be really good for my athletic development. Like I really want to be able to sort of stay at that level. And so I hope that, competing against really top athletes and having to push myself against them will make me stronger throughout the year.
Have you had runners reach out to you who've been dealing with injuries saying, hey, I noticed you made this move from running the triathlon. What do you think?
Yeah, sort of a mix of different things. Definitely, like whether it's for injury or not, definitely people coming from a run background who are interested in triathlon often reach out. Mix of things like that. And then also sometimes like triathletes struggling with similar injuries, it always helps to kind of get a variety of perspectives on how people have dealt with them. So
have you and Chelsea ever chatted about the backgrounds? Because, she had like 6 stress fractures, I think, before she made the move.
No, not in detail, but I do find her story like very relatable and inspiring.
Totally. So. And she's one of the best runners in the sport, and you were able to catch her at Oceanside, which was really cool to watch.
Yeah, thanks. It was cool to experience too. I'll take it while I can.
How far into the race did you catch her?
It was just as we were going into the second lap of the course. And then I think I ran most of that lap just,
scared.
Basically.
I was like, I think she's coming. She's coming.
It was good for my time to just know that she was there chasing me down the whole way.
Well, it's one of those races too where you get to see each other a few times, so you know exactly how far back she is. And then when you're heading one way and she's the other way, you try to look like, oh, forget about it. I'm in the best shape of my life. You're never going to catch me.
Well, of course, you always want to look strong.
That is awesome. Well, best of luck on Saturday. And you guys get to run under the lights. That's going to be pretty fun.
Yeah, it'll be different. It'll be interesting.
Have you done that?
No, I haven't ever started. I think the latest start for a triathlon has been some of the other PTO races that were like at 2 p.m.
This is 5, right? Is it 5?
Yeah, I think it's like 10 to 5. So it'll be different.
Yeah, that's going to be, we had at Daytona, and that was the first time you've been on one of these racetracks?
It is, yeah.
Oh, you're going to love it. It's pretty fun. Especially you got a little road course thing, so it breaks it up. The Daytona, just being in that position for 22 laps can be brutal. But you're going to like this. But having the Daytona, at Daytona, the athletes just really had a problem with trying to stay, a lot of the people with running backgrounds trying to stay aero for that long is really hard. So with this, you get to get out of the bars a little bit. And
and I'm testing the corners. They seemed okay today.
They seemed all right.
So I hope it will be the case. I've been working a lot on my bike handling, but it's really like a project for this year, and we're kind of at the start of it. So I'm hoping that some of that will show up, and we'll see how it goes.
Learning has the bike been the biggest challenge?
I don't know. It's hard to like identify one biggest challenge. Like for sure, the swim has been a huge project. I think the bike, it's just like chipping away at different things year after year. So it's sort of, I think the first time I was ever on a proper road bike was when I was 24, and then it was very intermittent until I was 28. And so it's just sort of like feel for the bike and ease of turning, and it just comes along gradually year by year. And I think we're trying to put a bit more concerted effort into it this year as well, because the bike power is coming along really well. And there are just a few instances where I feel like improving the technical skills a bit will help me out as well.
Thanks so much for taking time. Good luck on Saturday.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Tamara Jewett has been our guest again. That is Breakfast with Bob. That's a wrap for day 2 from Clash Miami. We'll be back tomorrow. And if you're watching online, I think we've got the Olympic race in the morning. and then the Para-Tri, which people will be qualifying for Paris, and then later in the afternoon, you want to watch T100, the women and the men, the best 20 male and female athletes on the planet be racing tomorrow. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. See ya.